at Brooklyn Casey High School, where she also serves as the president of the senior class. She's an active member of the National Honor Society, the Tri-M's Honor Society, and the Beta Club. Lindsay's a cheerleader for BC, runs cross country, and a member of the track team. She's enrolled in AP courses and maintains a 5.0 GPA. Presently, Lindsay plans to attend the University of South Carolina Honors College in the fall of 2017 as an English major. After Lindsay gives the invitation, our Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by Nino Noel Chambers. Nino is a senior in the Quest program at BC High School, where he assists with the student government activities. He's an active member of the National Honor Society, the FCA, and the Running Club. He's enrolled in AP courses and maintains a 4.6 GPA. Nino runs his own small business called The Chamber, where he makes and sells bow ties and keychains. Presently, he hopes to attend Yale in the fall of 2017 as an architecture major. So, Lindsay, if you will lead us in the invocation, and followed by Nino, if you will lead us in the pledge.
I have been very blessed to attend school in Lexington too. I thank each and every one of you for all the things you have done to support the class of 2017 through our 12 years of school. Let us pray. Oh God, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for the many blessings which you have bestowed upon our school district. Thank you for these board members who work tirelessly to ensure a good and proper education for all of the young people in our district. Please bless these leaders and be with them tonight as they make decisions that will affect the children of our district this year and in years to come. Amen.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We thank you, Lindsay.
Next item is the consent agenda. No objection, the agenda will stand approved as written. Next item on the agenda is public participation period. None, Mr. Hammond? Okay, thank you. Next, we have report of honors and accomplishments of students and staff.
We've got a listing of the honors and accomplishments in your board manual, and their copies for the public out on the stand.
Thank you. Next, we have unfinished business, which there is no unfinished business. So we'll move on to the next item, which is new business. And item A is consideration of request of out-of-state or overnight student travel.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Board. Tonight we're bringing you travel requests from 3 different groups. One is Brooklyn Casey High School, the boys basketball team. They've competed in the state around the holiday time. This year they're asking permission to go up to Spartanburg. The last couple of times they've been in the Low Country. Hilton Head was one of the areas. And Coach Wells says he's going to take advantage of touring some of the colleges up there in that area. The second one is from Ms. Ringer, the yearbook staff, Airport High School. They want to go to the national conference in Indianapolis. And then finally, Ms. Humphreys is asking to go to take the Brooklyn Casey High School kids that qualify for consideration for state honors oral.
Motion to approve the administration's recommendation to approve the student travel request.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Conwell. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Hinton. Next, we have consideration of request for release time for religious education.
He was,
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Mr. Hargrove was not able to attend.
We'll move that to next month. Next, we have item B, which is the new elementary school on Bulldog Boulevard. I'll turn that over to Mr. Eisenhower.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, we are at a point where that we need to make some decisions on the new elementary school that's being constructed out on Bulldog Boulevard at this time. The first decision that we need to make is the administrative configuration. There's been some discussion about making that 2 schools, making it 1 school, having 1 school downstairs, 1 school upstairs. I think that we have tried to preserve that option for the board to make it either 1 or 2 schools, and I think it would be our recommendation at this time to make some modifications to the upstairs office complex and just make it 1 school.
All right, so that is your recommendation
Yes, ma'am.
tonight, okay?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the administration's recommendation to move to a 1 administrative school and do the adjustments that need to be done architecturally.
Okay. Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Just one thing, Madam Chair, I think just from a clarification standpoint, just from a task force, the whole idea behind having 2 schools initially was so that we would not lose any principal positions. And since we've had some rearrangements and movements and whatnot, it makes sense from the administration standpoint to recommend just to move it to 1 school. Now, clarify, if you will, Mr. Eisenhower, we will have separate assistant principals. Is that the idea? Can you clarify that?
There will be primary grades on the first floor, elementary grades on the second floor. There will be at least 1 assistant principal per configuration. If there are more children based on the State Department of Education formula, then there would be more assistant principals and guidance counselors. But the number of assistant principals and guidance counselors is based on the state formula, but at the bare minimum, you would have 1 assistant principal on the primary grade floor and 1 on the elementary grade floor.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second for the administration's recommendation for the reconfiguration of the administration of the new school on Bulldog Boulevard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, also for your consideration, we were asked to compose a committee for the new elementary school to look at potential names, potential school mascots, and potential school colors. We have provided you with a list of those items for consideration. It would be the recommendation of the administration for the board to choose at this time the name for the new school that's being built on Bulldog Boulevard from the list that's provided by the committee.
You're asking for a recommendation for us to choose a name now? Is that
From the ones that was suggested.
From these suggested?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kessler?
Madam Chair, I really like going with Casey Elementary, the best of the selection that they have there. However, I know that we do have Brooklyn Casey Grammar right now, but that would be subject to change. I think Casey fits into the name of the school. It's my preference, I'll just say it that way.
Mr. Bannon?
I mean, if we're talking about preferences, I mean, I like the Atari Elementary, that area is, if you have Atari Point, it is a historical connotation to that name, and it even predates the city of Casey. So if we're talking about what I like that. I mean, it does have a very historical meaning to it.
Isn't that not one of the housing developments, is that the one here in Tardy?
There is a Atari Point's one of the developments out there, but that whole area
Is
known as the Atari Tract, where some of the Indians used to.
If I may applaud you, those were the two top choices by the committee as well.
Madam Chairman, is it important to have this decision made tonight for any reason? And the reason I'm asking that is because Ms. Kessler was gracious enough to pass her sheet down to Mr. Giles and myself, but neither one of us, this is the first time we laid eyes on this, so we didn't, it's kind of quick to even contemplate.
That would be up to the board. We're just at a point where we need to start calling it something.
It'd be nice if we could, it would be nice if we could get it down to at least 2, so that we have an idea of which one we would prefer. So,
It's up to you all.
If you'd like to bring it back in
Well,
October.
why can we table it and bring it back in October and
I know that you need colors and things for construction, but will not, October not be early enough?
It would. At this point, the committee has brought up several things that they might want to propose to you in October to capture a lot of history in that particular area of our school district. So if you don't mind bringing several things, us bringing you several things, then I think that's fine.
Mr. Eisenhower, I believe unless the school colors for airport is changed, it's blue and gray, not blue and silver. Just for correction, I mean, just so that you know that. It's not silver.
so, okay, if there's no objection, we'll table this until the October meeting.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And next we're going to,
Madam Chair, I also have in your packet an easement for consideration. And we have, well, the administration recommends approval of water line easement at Brook and Casey High School as per the provided documents in your packet.
all right, do I entertain a motion? Okay, I just need a motion first.
Motion to approve easement for water lines, whatever is necessary for construction.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it so we get a discussion.
Second by Ms. Kessler, discussion?
Is this question, please?
Yes.
Is this going to help the situation at that school with the drainage, or is this not, is this simply to offer water easement?
This would be to upgrade, as I understand it, would be to upgrade the supply lines of water.
Not anything to do with the,
Nothing to do with the storm system.
have they mentioned anything about helping out with that debacle that they have with the system so that we can get some drainage on that property rather than all this construction problem?
I have not specifically had those conversations, but I have heard that there has been some discussion and I think even some potential studies to look at some possibilities to address it. Obviously, there would be a lot of money and I think right-of-way issues and that sort of thing that they would have to work out before all of that could take place, as I understand it.
Mr. Van?
Yeah, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote, but just so you understand, I mean, obviously, if you look at the document, you see we prepared the map for it. We didn't prepare the easement, the attorney did that, but the map, basically, what is going on is the city of Casey is in the process of trying to replace a number of their old dilapidated water lines. And so they're trying to, I mean, basically, the complete avenues are being replaced with all the water lines. There's some areas where you can't get the lines in the existing road right-of-way because the right-of-way goes, the sidewalk goes all the way up to the edge of the property lines. So there are a few areas where we've had to ask people for easements so we can get the water lines in. The benefit of the water line to the school is a lot more fire protection than currently exists by the existing water lines that are there.
Bill, can you explain, and I know the man's in here, and I looked at him, but can you explain how much that's going to be and how it's going to affect the school day?
How it affects the school day?
Parking or
I don't
machinery?
think it'll affect that at all. I mean, we're talking about just right there at the corner where State Street and Old Indigo was. There's a small section there where they've got to bore across the road and they got to dig a big enough pit there to get the machine in to bore the line, and that's kind of what's driving the width of the easement. So it's not like all the way across the whole property. It's just in one little spot.
That's my concern. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, I have a motion by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Kessler, and Mr. Benham is going to recuse himself. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next on the agenda, we have the certification of delegates for the South Carolina School Board Association 2016 Delegate Assembly. The annual business meeting of the South Carolina School Board Association will take place on December 3rd, 2016. Lexington District 2 is allowed 3 voting delegates. Historically, the board has selected 1 or more members to serve as the district's voting delegates.
I'll nominate Kate Kessler to go and have our votes, or if anybody else wants to go as well.
All right. We have a motion and from Ms. Kay Kessler to be our delegate, and any of the rest of us that want to go.
One of the things that we mainly want to do too is put an alternate with that.
Okay. Don't let it be out of trouble, okay?
I'll nominate Cindy Kessler as alternate.
She said it, I heard her.
No.
Okay, I have a motion, okay? I have a motion and a second to have Ms. Kay Kessler as our delegate and Ms. Cindy Kessler as the alternative. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
They're not allowed to discuss.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
No.
Next, we have a resolution. We have the national spotlight on one of our own tonight. We have a resolution in support of Beth Renham's candidacy for Secretary of the National School Boards Association. And I am now going to turn it over to Ms. Cindy Kessler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I make a motion to approve the resolution by the Board of Trustees of Lexington School District 2 to support Beth in her candidacy for Secretary of, bless your heart, National School Boards Association.
Second.
And I have a second by Mr. Bingham. I'm sure there is no discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Beth, on behalf of the entire school district, Dr. James, the administration in Lexington too, we are so proud of you and wish you so much luck.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, we're going to go to administrative divisional reports, and I'll now turn that over to Dr. James.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. You have an overview, just some bullet points regarding the penny sales tax credit in Lexington County. Some things I'll draw your attention to. I know that the other boards are being updated. The superintendents in Lexington County have been talking about this since before last year, even though we've got another year before it actually expires. But I would like you to look, the funds are currently split in a way where 50% of them are distributed based on the district's 135-day ADM, and then 50% on the census. That's really good for Lexington too. That puts us in a situation where we're the second highest receiving in dollars district in Lexington County. It makes up about $8 million for us. The good thing about that is a lot of those dollars are coming from outside of Lexington County and outside of the state of South Carolina's tax dollars. And again, their property tax relief. So it makes a difference to our community. There's some bullet points there that we put in. I'm certain everybody here on this board knows more about this when it was initiated than I do, but I just want to keep you all abreast that it is coming up. There are school boards that have begun to talk about this. It has been a good thing for us, and our local delegation has done a really good job of making sure the medium-sized districts are treated fairly in the distribution of the money. It doesn't all go to larger districts. So if you have any questions, you give me a call, you give Kelly a call. We'll be glad to keep you updated on that.
Mr. Bingham?
Dr. James, with some of the press folks here, I guess it would be good to make sure that you get with them and that they understand that this issue is not about the school getting any more money.
No,
this is truly an issue of they're either going to pay the sales tax or pay the property tax. It's one or the other, and we don't get anything out of it any different. It's not about the school trying to capture more money.
No, sir. No, sir.
The press gets that clear in the public so they do understand that.
No, and Mr. Bingham, you and I talked the other day, and you produced probably the best way for the non-technical person when it comes to this to understand. This is money that's going to come into the school districts, the 5 districts in Lexington County, one way or the other. But what the school boards and the General Assembly were able to do through this referendum is money comes in as penny sales tax money that's spread throughout the county, regardless of county residents, visitors, somebody from out of state, whomever. And it's a relief to their property tax. So you're absolutely right. It will not change one way or the other. The school will not get more money or less money. It's just we won't be taking money from taxpayers. And I think, well, in our district, you're talking about $8 million. That would be a 35 mil increase roughly for our homeowners, where right now a big portion of that comes from folks who aren't living in Lexington County through all the different things that are sales tax. So you're absolutely right. It doesn't change the amount of money the district gets one way or the other. It just offers relief for the homeowner.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. James. Next, we'll go to instruction, proposed advanced ed timeline.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Madam Chair, members of the board, it's the most wonderful time of the year when we begin the advanced ed accreditation strategic planning process. It seems like we just went down this road not too long ago, but here we are again. As you're aware, this is about an 18-month process, and so tonight we'll actually officially share information with you all, just for your information so you'll be abreast of where we are with it. I'm not going to read the timeline to you, but if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the proposed timeline, we will certainly entertain any comments, questions, or concerns. And we'll also solicit your feedback regarding the process. We do have a steering committee that has already begun the vision casting process. I will share a little bit about that with you in a few minutes, but we every 5 years when we have to look at this cycle, we of course have to look at our vision, our mission, our beliefs, and our goals. And so the steering committee began the process of looking at the current vision as well as where we want to be in the future. We looked at the what and the how we're going to get there through our mission. So Rob's going to just showcase to you a few pictures. We started with the vision training process. It's called the vision training exercise. It was a cafe model. We had about 60 folks that participated in that exercise or engagement with us to talk about where we want to be. This is what our current vision and mission statements are. You'll see just samples of anecdotal work, and of course, those of you that have been through the process, you know that we have to prove and show due diligence that we did involve as many constituents as possible, so we'll collect data over time. And this is the proposed vision and mission. Of course, everything comes to final approval of the Board of Trustees. What we will do next week is launch the proposed vision and mission. There are some differences from what you've seen in the past with regards to where we want to go, and we will use the Survey Monkey to solicit feedback from the entire Lexington School District constituents. So we'll keep it up for about a month, and then we'll come back together with the steering committee, take feedback from the constituents, and if we have to come back to the drawing board to look at it, we certainly will. But what we need to put in place for the next 5 years is where we want to be, thinking, downward thinking, and where we're going to take Lexington School District to. So that's just the first part of the process. Next month, we'll begin with our beliefs and our goals, and then we'll start talking about actually looking at the 5 advanced ed standards. So entertain any questions at this time? Yes, sir.
I'm sure that somewhere in here, you probably already addressed it, but the last time when Advanced Ed came, obviously they left us with several
Required actions.
areas, well, required actions and areas for improvement and those sort of things. So are we taking those to show how we've moved from where that was to where we are today?
When we respond, we'll have to, of course, now, back in the spring, Dr. James and I got together, we had to actually write a report of where we are with those findings. And we received notification in July that we were already fully accredited, but they accepted the work that we have done up until this point, saying that we have made great progress regarding the required actions. Now, we again will have to show these were the required actions, this is what we did. We will have to respond to that in this process. But we have already officially responded to it via reporting to the Advanced Ed office.
On the required action?
Yes, sir.
And then are we going to show them how we went one step further?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Than what was required?
Yes, sir. We will.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right, next is finance. Ms. Richards.
Good evening, thank you. I have in your packet the monthly financials for August. I'll be happy to entertain any questions. We have revenue. Property taxes really isn't started coming in yet, other than just some vehicle delinquent. Other than that, expenditures are right on mark where they should be at this time of year.
Mr. Raymond?
Where are we at in terms of starting the audit process?
The auditors started this week, and they will finish up, well, they don't finish up, this week they'll finish, and they're coming back in October to really begin the grunt of it. They did a lot of preliminary work on some of our federal funds this week, and some of our people activity audits. They went out to do some of those. They randomly sample a few schools every year to go out, and then they'll be back in October to basically finish up the audit piece of it.
I do have a question. Are we having financial difficulties? Is there anything, I mean, this on paper says, we're about balanced. But I was in a neighborhood construction company recently, and I was asked why I couldn't pay my bills. And I questioned that, and it wasn't my bills, it was Lexington 2 bills. We're having trouble with cards.
We did have some problems with our procurement card.
Yes, P-cards.
Yes, we've got that resolved and back up and running.
That was not,
They hauled out the window, why aren't you all paying your bills? And I looked around for who was behind me, because I knew I didn't know.
Who, like, you talking about a vendor or a?
Yes, an employee of the vendor. Lowe's. Favorite shopping place.
I will check into that. I was not aware we were having any issues with paying
I
loans.
caught that man in that truck, he was a.
I will check into that for sure, yes.
I wish you had.
I will tell you, we process checks every week. If we get it in, it gets.
But I understand we have cards cards that are not being honored, even though there's money on the cards. That was what was explained to me that the problem was, and that.
They were cut off.
Right, our cards were cut off because there's a maximum you can spend each month on those cards.
5,000, they were stopped at less than 2,000.
I'm sorry?
And they were stopped at less than 2,000.
Right, yeah. And there's a limit per day, and then there's a limit per month we can spend.
But
So-
if there's expenditures that they need, and they need materials to correct the problem at the schools, they have to wait until they can use their cards to purchase what's needed?
No, they can still do a purchase order and get the purchases. I mean,
And then they sit and wait for that purchase order to go through. Okay.
well, I mean, that's a state procurement process, so.
I've never been confronted about that.
Well, yeah.
It was quite strange.
So Lowe's, I will check into that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
We have also our, next page is the referendum expenditures. And I know it's small. It's a lot of information on one sheet, so it's small. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item. And without objection, the monthly financial reports will stand approved. Next, we have item D, administration and student services. Number one is enrollment and school choice update. Mr. Hinton?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. At our last meeting, I brought you the first day. This is 10 days later. It's very typical. The unique thing about this year is that we continue to get people coming in. The CWIC people sent me numbers yesterday just to show that they still continue to go up and up and up. It's not like 10 or 15 at one time, but they're 2 and 3 here and there, and it just continues, and it's kept continuing. The only thing different that's happened since you got this report, at Wood, we added a teacher at 5th grade. So that brought their ratio from like 25 to 1 to 20 to 1, and I was in a parent conference with one of the 5th grade teachers at Wood, and when she talked about it, she said, yes, we got a new teacher in there. We feel like we can really move with the kids now, so they're very appreciative of that.
Had 200 increase there at CWIC, that was your 4-year-olds?
Yes, ma'am.
206?
Yes, no, that's kindergarten. The 100, wait a minute, that's kind of weird. No, it's the 56 and 51 are the CWIC numbers. And we've been in the process of, we can go to 120 there, and we've been in the process of going to our waiting list and bringing kids in because others didn't show up that had said they were.
So the additional 100 increase was in regular classes because it went from 388 to 582.
Yes, ma'am. They didn't, you know, when we came last time, they didn't have 200. They were like in 180s for kindergarten, and they were 202. And the report I got yesterday from the registrar was, we're above 200 and we keep going. So they like to keep me informed there, so I appreciate it. But we got, I think, a good section of kindergartens, which will grow with us through the years. And our 6th grade was just the grade level this year where we had the most enrollment, or we had classes that got full very quickly.
In these other situations where the enrollment went up considerably, there's no problem with pupil-teacher ratios?
Not that I know of. Everyone's been working directly with that. We'll move over to choice. I made this report a little different for you this year. I hope that, first of all, you see employee choice. We've never brought that to you before. And I just want to bring a message to you from one of our new employees. She just couldn't thank me enough. She didn't know that we would allow her to bring her child with her, which solved a huge problem of after school and they lived out of the district. So when you see 145, about 85 to 87% of them were here last year. Everybody has to reapply for employee choice every year. Even if your student's been with us kindergarten through 11th grade, they have to reapply for the 12th grade. That happens in February.
Mr. Hinton, I'm really happy that we can do this for our employees, but in counting out these numbers, I counted 78 are out of district.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are taxpayers in our district assuming that financial responsibility?
Yes, ma'am. They would. We don't charge
So
any
it's 78
tuition.
times 3,000 something.
But that's part of the policy that we let them come out as long as the sending district will give a release. They release. We have 100% of our releases.
So that's 3,000. How much per child?
Well, the tuition we're charging this year is $39.66, I believe, or $39.33.
Which is more than the base.
So it's
fee.
39.33 times 78 that the taxpayers of this district are assuming.
But keep in mind, we also have a lot of kids that live in our district that go with their parents to their school districts. So there's a wash almost there. Because I do a lot of releases for those kids and we've never met them because their parents.
Ms. Cassie, I'm sorry, the money does follow the child, like the state.
The state does, but the local doesn't.
Yeah, the state money comes from.
But the local doesn't.
Yes, ma'am. And then if you go over to school choice this year, we improved our application, which gave us more information. I was real slow this year adding kids because I ran some schools over the last couple of years, and we were doing overages and everything like that, and riding buses. So I was real careful not to do this and place quite a few at the end. If you see two kids in the same block, they're siblings. So when I give one of them school choice, they both have to get school choice if they're going to the same school. Most of the kids, except at middle school, that were unable to place either had an attendance or a discipline issue. The two at high school did, and I'm pretty sure the six at elementary either had. And we look at things like tardies because they're going to be provided, transportation is going to have to bring them. And one of the things we find right away is the family can't make up that time, and so the kid comes in 15 minutes late every day. And at middle school, we just had a lot of sixth graders we couldn't place because of the high numbers. Even when we gave Northside an additional sixth grade teacher, they're still, the numbers are up there. If we hadn't done that, they'd be over 31 right now. And if you could see this full sheet that I have with the names and everything, the first ones are always the sibling placements. They already have a brother or sister at the school. And then you'll see, especially at the elementary level, a lot of kindergartners at the end, because that's when we get close, because that's the one group of students we don't know how many we'll get each and every year. I predict we'll have another solid kindergarten next year because our 4-year program filled up pretty good this year. That seems to be the only thing, so.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Okay, next we have construction update. I'll turn that over to Mr. Eisenhower.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, we provided you in your packet a list of construction updates that we have for each of the projects going on. I do have a correction, actually a couple of corrections on the new elementary school at Log Boulevard. Under slab utilities are being installed in about 50% of the floor slabs that actually been poured or were poured at the time that we sent this. I overlooked that number. And also, I should have taken out the sentence about the rain delays, and what I intended to put in there was that several door frames have been installed and block work is progressing nicely. I don't know if you've driven by the site lately, but they're making a lot of good positive progress. We got a good superintendent there, job superintendent. He's really pushing to catch up, make up some time on the rain delay that we've had. They're doubling up on pours. They're trying to bring in additional masons, and they're doing a really good job of trying to get back on the timeline that we established originally. Any questions about the update?
Question.
Ms. Kessler?
It says here that the softball field is completed, the work is completed on that? Mike?
Actually, the part that we had approved has been completed. We went back out there and we have approved an additional storm drain to go at the back of the press box and an additional storm drain to go in the home side dugout that will tie into the existing storm drain that they just put in.
As of 5:30 this afternoon, 3 of the storm drains are about 4 inches, 5 inches under sand. The sand, the drains are not there and the pipe is filled up. Will they be coming back to open those up and repair that?
They will be coming back to do the additional work, and we'll get them done at that time. Yes, ma'am.
The drain completely, the pipe is completely filled and sitting above all the drains.
We'll try to get them to install some erosion control there too.
Who's going to complete the groundwork? Because if you leave those sides like that, they're going to complete, every time it rains, it's going to erode that much more. What do you plan to do with the grounds there? Because it's just bare.
Well, at this point in time, because we were talking about installing the additional storm drains, they did not shoot the bank with seed and matting that the texture, the fiber that holds the soil in place.
Will that be raked before they do that and dressed up, or will it be rough?
They'll dress it up some, since we've had some erosion. I'll have to go out and take a look at it, but I haven't looked at it since we had all that rain.
Thank you, sir.
We just approved the additional storm drains this afternoon, actually.
How are things going at Concrete with the cafeteria addition? Are they going smooth there?
It's going better. They've started block work. Took them a while to get the footings in the ground. They got washed out several times, filled in, a lot of sand on that side. But they've cleaned them out, got the footers in, and they've started block work.
Didn't they bring in some extra washer? Looked like they had any more out there.
Yes, ma'am. Also, Madam Chair, I wanted to make you aware of the fact that we've had Defender Services housed in the old gym that's behind Fulmer. As we were making the transition with GCA, moving out, we've evaluated the situation, and we feel like it would be less expensive for us to heat the old Fine Arts facility than it would be to heat Granby. So without objection, it's our intention to move Defender over into the old Fine Arts facility rather than moving them into Granby. That would allow us to look at long-term possibility of some demolition at Granby if the board so desires.
Okay, and next is the presentation of exterior brick color.
Yes, ma'am. I have Lori Long here from Jumper Carter Seats, who is going to share with you some exterior brick colors that we plan to use. I think she also has some other color palettes that we're going to give you here. It's a lot of color.
There will be just a moment, we'll put these up on easels, and then
And while she's setting up, we actually have a section of these brick laid up on the site that we took a look at on Monday. And we've looked at some different mortar colors with that brick.
These boards are really heavy, so I'm hoping that these will hold up and not block everybody's view.
Talking about, we're working through the elementary school, the K Center, and the elementary school. Will that be all one facility? We're going to try to keep them in line with one another, so it looks like one.
We're going to try to build them so that they complement each other.
Yes.
This brick is not exactly the same as what we have at Busby, and in fact, Busby has more of a blend. We could do some of that, but the base color of the red is going to be in all of them, or at least that's our intention.
So, thank you, Mr. Eisenhower, Madam Chair, Dr. James, and distinguished board members who appreciate the opportunity. And I'm going to make this very quick and give you a very brief overview of some of the interior palette colors that we talked about with the committee that Don put together for the school. This is Richard Bryant. He is our lead interior designer, and he does all the pretty stuff, and I just sit back and watch him pull it together. My name is Lori Long, and I'm one of the project architects on the school. The school project is going very well. Our contractors are doing a great job, and they're up to bearing height on one of the wings. So it's coming quickly. And if we get the approval of the brick and the stone today, they told me that they will have brick going up in 3 weeks. So, if you recall the renderings that we brought early on, that Todd brought, I think I have a small version of this, and this, of course, is a picture that you had out in the lobby. This is the field brick, and then this is the stone color that we've selected. And it's very complimentary. I do have a photograph of the sample panel that is out on the site with the mortar in it, because brick always looks different with mortar put together like it's supposed to be, so I'm going to just pass it out. I took these pictures today in the bright sun. They're very similar. They're just a different colored mortar. Very, very similar, but the darker border is what I would recommend, and what we'd like to go in. Because I just think it reads better, it gives a more monolithic appearance, contrasts the stone better. The lighter mortar is just a little bit too crisp and stark. So those are the two materials that you see there. So, unless there's any real objections, we'd really like to move forward with that selection based on the renderings that you approved earlier in the year.
And Madam Chair, we're not asking you guys to approve anything, we're just asking to proceed. We're going to plan to proceed unless y'all have some serious objections to these.
I just want to make sure that the bricks complement what is already there, so that everyone passing by there that's not familiar with our community will know that that's Lexington 2 schools there. I see some orange in that I'm not seeing in this picture. Of course, I know the picture is different from the actual brick, but recalling that school, it looks like it's a little bit more orange than that. Is that true?
No, this is the actual brick, and I think the lighting is throwing us off a little bit.
Okay, so that's the actual brick that's at Busby right now?
No, ma'am, this is just the brick that we've selected for this.
Yes, ma'am.
It's close, it is very close to the.
That's what I'm saying.
What you have at Busby is you have a blend of brick that has some oranger colors in it, but it also has the red mixed in as well.
Now, we could bring the sample of the Busby brick if you'd like, or we could lay it up against the sample panel that's installed on the site. If you'd like for us to do that, so you can see them close together.
If you drive them on the road, they're going to look very, very similar, very complementary, right?
And the Cake Center would like to use these exact materials on the Cake Center, so because they are right close to that. So I think they're very complimentary of the Busby brick, but they're not the exact same brick.
Mr. Mayor?
the Busby brick, I think what they did there is they put like a water line on the brick, so it's got one color. Because I remember when it went in, it looked like that maybe the bottom was dirty, that it hadn't been cleaned, because the bottom was darker than the top part. And it ended up, it's two shades of brick, but they're just really close shades, so it's not enough that you really tell, oh, well, that's a completely different brick than that one, unless you really know what you're looking at. When it was first done, I remember that being the case. But, I mean, that's just, I mean, those are standard red wire cuts. So.
That's the name of it, actually, it's a standard red wire cut.
That's
Very
great.
economical brick, and it's a nice tone. And on this job, what we're proposing, of course, is a brick on the top and the bottom. It does have that precast band at the water table level, but the same color brick is on the top of the band and the bottom.
You know what I'm talking about.
We did a lot of that back then, and we're trying to stay a little bit more monotone with our brick palettes and our exterior color palettes now. We think it's going to be more like time.
Any other questions, discussion? Looks great. Thank you.
And then the interior color palette, I'll go into it. It's a very neutral, I know there's a lot of color here. It is a neutral palette with accents, soft accents of color for the children. We're using the soft colors to differentiate movement through the school, directions towards the wings. But if you look at the terrazzos in the hall, they are more monolithic tone as well, neutrals with just a little splash of color. I think Richard and his team have done an excellent job of pulling together with some intense splashes of color that children need in the elementary level, but not overwhelmingly so. And we've tied into Don's neutral wall paint colors and things like that that are district-wide. So we're excited about it. I think the committee was excited about it and would like to proceed with that.
I kind of have a question. If the school colors haven't been decided yet, would it be nice to have the school colors in with this rather than the architects picking out colors just for the school, just because they would like the logo look nice? Would it be practical to put the school colors in there somewhere?
Well, and I think that's why Don has brought that up so early on, and we'll wait. I mean, we can wait. We needed to get started just to sort of present something to the committee as discussion points. We're not locked into this. We're not giving this to the contractor at all. If we can make those school color choices, we do like to move those school color choices certainly down into the PE areas and things like that. In the other areas, if we can incorporate those colors, we do as well, certainly. But then we also have, because we have 4 different hallways, we would have to introduce some others to sort of complement those. But yes, we would love to have.
So if we vote on that next month to figure out the color, school colors, just still plenty of time for you guys to do what you need to do, right?
Yes, sir. And then we would take this palette and adjust it to accommodate those colors.
It's not unusual to have multiple colors in an elementary school, or any school really, and them not be the school colors. What the committee has talked about doing is we've talked about some designs in the terrazzo that would point to different parts that we want to highlight with historical facts in the building, and we were planning to use school colors on those.
And they do Morocco's work, so whatever those school colors is, I promise you, Richard and his team will do the colors a little bit brief. But we'll make sure we come back if you want us to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
With that, Madam Chair, I conclude my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Eisenhower. Next, we'll move on to human resources.
Yes, ma'am.
And turn that over to Dr. Cooper.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James. It's that time of year that I bring to you the annual staffing report. It is at your places. We look at that with trends, we look at that with challenges, we look at that as we can plan moving forward. So to walk you through this generally, if you have any questions, please let me know. You can see that as of September the 9th, we've hired approximately 120 staff. The first table shows you the staff in certified category, followed by administrative, and then support staff. I'd like to bring you the demographics and what our reduction teacher population looks like, along with the attrition of those folks that we are losing, which will come up on the next page. So you can see that the majority of our induction class holds a master's degree or above. Now, we also like to follow attrition data. We like to make sure that we know who's leaving and for what reason. You can see at the top, at the second page of the top table, approximately 27% of our staff at this point have left us to go to other school districts. Follow closely, but that is not the number one reason that folks leave. The number one reason that folks are leaving is because of spouse relocation. People just do not come and stay in the same district for any long period of time anymore. Down in the middle of the page, you have the administrative and other professional staff attrition, and then administrative staff transfers at the bottom of the page. Critical needs has been around a long time. It started in the early 90s with critical needs, and it pays. There are all these other alternative certification programs, and we find ourselves going through the school year fully staffed. Last year, we went all school year without some teaching positions. And one that comes to my mind is math at BC High School. I'll tell you that it is harder than it has ever been. This year we've implemented signing bonus by virtue of a grant that we've written for special ed. We will look at adding other critical need areas to that as one way to incentivize folks to come to us. Mr. Smoke is now going to come up and provide you some information on the trends on the growing teacher shortage, and I will wind that out with showing you where we are at this point and asking for your consideration forward.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, we want to just share with you information about teacher shortage and that the growing trend and how it affects the state of South Carolina as well as Lexington too. Each year we complete a very detailed report and give it to Sarah, and they complete what's called a supply and demand report. This report is given out in January of each year, and I want to point out some statistics of pointing out number of graduates who complete South Carolina education program. You can see that there's a trend it started to go up a little bit in 2013-14, but it's as of 2015-16, we're down below 2,000. That's the number of teachers that are graduating in the South Carolina teacher education program. But the number of certified teachers who did not return to the teaching position in the state of South Carolina is increasing at a pretty good rate. 4,000 teachers did not return to their teaching positions. This does not include teachers who go from one district to another. The number one reason why from there, over 1,200 were for personal reasons, just including to stay home with their children, resignations given, no reasons given. Over 1,000 of that 4,000 was for retirement, and the remaining is moving out of state for a spouse's relocation, military, or teaching in another state. Dr. Cooper mentioned about the critical needs areas and critical geographical schools. Well, we have to the State Department of Education reports to us schools that are considered critical geographical schools. For 2016-17, you'll notice these are the Lexington 2 schools that are considered critical geographical schools. The first thing you probably notice is that every school is not on this list. You'll notice that Airport High School is on this list, but BC is not. There's some middle schools that are on here, some are not. This changes each year. I do want to point out that Lexington 2 as a district is not considered a critical district. You also have 2016-17 critical subject areas. This is updated each year also from the State Department of Education. And the traditional secondary math, science, special ed, every year is on there. But you'll notice we've added some additional subject areas that were added to the 2016-17. This also is fluid and changes from year to year. So some of the areas you'll notice that are not on here are elementary, early childhood, guidance, just to name a few.
On this particular slide, as you know, you've heard about the earnings limitation for those individuals who retired after January 1st, 2013, held to that $10,000 subject earnings limitation. If you are a retiree and you are teaching in one of the critical areas that we just showed you, you are not held subject to that $10,000 earnings limitation. Go back to the schools that we have listed there, and if you are teaching a critical subject area, you are at Airport High School, for example, and if you are in a position where you might need loan forgiveness, there are still retirees who deal with that. You would be a benefit if you worked at Airport but not DC High School, for example. If you're an elementary teacher, and your school is not listed here, you can work in an elementary school. The school could be given loan forgiveness or otherwise perks, if you will, but you could not earn the full salary because it's not listed. As you can see, this creates a problem. And one of the things that we are looking at now, in addition to just the ongoing truly teacher shortage, and I just tell you, it's been going on a long time. And we have not since I've been, this is my 10th year, we've not been through a school year with a vacancy all year. Last year was the first year. We generally hire about 130 people. We still have a handful of teaching positions vacant. They include math, 2 dual contents in a couple of middle schools, foreign language, etc. And we're going to continue our due diligence with that. But you might recall that the board did take action some years back regarding post-Terry and the process that we would utilize for hiring them. The situation is that we can hire a retiree from another state, bring them into this state system and give them the benefit or complement of the full salaries based on the teacher salary schedule or whatever the appropriate salary would be on that pay grade. Or if you are a retiree and you're teaching any of these content areas, you are also then, you have to be paid on the credential level. So you can see the challenge that we have there. As I said, we still have a handful of vacancies. We have not ever had that. And we continue to, we will be forthright with our due diligence. But I'll tell you, I don't believe in luck, I believe in preparation. But these are the winds of change. And because of that prior direction given by the board, we now have a situation given this new information, which makes it very, very difficult to staff. And as we go, I ask for your consideration of that prior discussion that you had regarding reemployment of post-hearing employees. Dr. James, that's all.
That's one of the things, Madam Chair, we'll make more aware of, because you'll see this one is there is a critical shortage, and then we will have people at different schools and different subject areas that the 2013 Terry program limits people to $10,000 unless they're in one of those critical areas. So if we have those folks that come back in that 2013 class, they'll be paid at their year's experience, their degree, their regular salary if they're in a critical needs school or critical needs subject. Those folks before 2013, the same thing will have to happen. We'll bring the board back some recommendations, but we want the board to be aware. One is there's a shortage across the board, but particularly in some very difficult areas to find folks. Math, science, speech, those kinds of things are difficult, special education. But the state's new directive for this critical needs has kind of changed the winds of the pay scale. It's going to be, it's tough on human resources, and it's going to be tough on Leah. She earned that clock tonight when she started trying to keep up with all this different pay scales. So we will bring you a recommendation, but we want the board to know that there are some differences that have not been in place before we get this critical needs set up.
Mr. Baker.
So as I understand it, we've now come back full circle to what we had before the Terry, where we got to certify critical needs teachers. How do we handle it? Because this is what we got into the trouble with before.
how do we handle when you do have a qualified applicant who can take and fill whatever that critical needs area is, but you have a retiree who would rather come back to stay there? We had a problem before where if there was somebody who was qualified that was a non-retiree, had to make the hire, and if you didn't, then Human Resources would have to certify that there was not a qualified person, a non-retiree, to do that job.
Well, with these assurances, it's still, that is still the same.
So you still are going to have to make that same
You
certification.
do, and that is, I know that last slide was hard to read, but within that slide, you'll see that you demonstrate, you're hiring this person at the school for this content area, and also what you have done to seek out someone who is not in that particular category. So that is still there. You know, you do still have to show your due diligence with searching and finding someone who may not be. In other words, you search the world over, and this is it.
Is that a state guideline?
It is in the document.
Okay. But
And it always
that's not a
puts
board
better
policy,
positions
that's
for
coming from the state.
retiree. It makes it less cumbersome for the retiree and for the district too. If they've already expanded that search and they still can't find, they now have a candidate, so they can now fill a position.
But the protocol for that is still the same with this assurance stuff. And I'll tell you, years past, I mean, we haven't had to do one of these in a number of years. And the last time that we did, I don't know, I haven't done one since I've been here until now. So I was in another district at the time, and, there was a large turnaround time for that. This is instant. We sent this in, it came back instantly. I mean, they've got the system set up there. So when you do this, you are assuring that you have, yes, searched and you have not been able to find a candidate that's not in that category who you are. They will then in turn go and look and make sure that this is all what it should be at the State Department, and they will send this back approved or not approved. And I've never seen anything that was approved, but they could not approve it.
The difficulties we had before were when we did have qualified candidates, some folks who were retirees were trying to block them from getting the job because they wanted to stay there, continuing to earn their retirement while they're continuing to earn a salary, and did not want them, they wanted to be rehired even though there was a qualified candidate. And so that's the problem. We don't need to get right back into the same thing, because then part of what we had was we were not getting new people into the school. It became nothing but retirees.
When you say before, how long ago was that? Are you talking about when
It was since I was on this board.
10 years ago.
12 years?
It was prior to you being in that city.
I'm trying to.
It was before the Terry program. Because until the Terry program,
That was 2001.
It was regarding Terry, yeah.
well, and even then, there was earnings cap limitations, and that was where the issue was, because there was an earnings cap of like $30,000, which was generally less than most teachers earned that had reached retirement age. So there was an earnings cap. But it wasn't an earnings cap if you were a critical needs teacher. So everybody was seeking the critical needs exemption, so they lifted their earnings cap so they could draw full retirement and draw their full salary potential. And so what I see is happening is we're coming right back to the same problem that we had before this all started, which is that. So we need to make sure we're going to address it in a way that does not allow that problem to perpetuate itself again.
Well, Mr. Bingham, I know you understand this. At the end of it, I understand. And I was trying to process in my mind what was happening at that time. And when you hire somebody, it ought to be because they're the best person for the job. When you don't renew someone, it ought to be because they are not the best person to come back for the position. The Terry thing complicated everything. And really, it really shouldn't be the sole reason. Now, it should also keep folks who are younger in the field from having the opportunity to come in. So when you get into the hiring, you have to, one of the things that we do as a gatekeeper is make sure that, one thing we do is we like to support our principals with who they want to hire. After all, that's who these folks work for. But this does complicate things, and it's something I can't take away. All I can tell you is that we will do, everyone will be treated fairly. And if there's a candidate that is a retiree that gets the position, then they were the best candidate for the position. It would not be because anyone else is not able.
But then that would be a difference from what we had before. Before, the certification to the State Department was not, I'm hiring the best person for the job. The certification to the State Department was, I don't have a qualified candidate for the job. Now, you have a person that's taught for 35 years versus a person that's taught for 10, you're going to always say, well, the 35 years is more qualified than the 10. But it doesn't mean they're not qualified to teach the subject. It just means, well, that person's been doing it longer than that one. But the way the certification was before, if the 10, if they're qualified, you could not hire the 35 because you had a qualified candidate.
Right. I understand.
So is that the form that you...
What you're saying is that this is the best person for the job and they are a retiree. That's really what you're saying. And yeah, it does say that there is no, the candidate pool is too shallow. So, it really should be saying the same thing. This should not be going if the person wasn't, it might be that's the only person that applies for the position. But at the end of the day, you're saying, we're going to hire this person, they're retiree, they're the best person for the job, and generally they may be the only one, okay? But really, if we're talking about the best person for the job, and then the fact that if you take out the retiree part, they're the best person for the job, the only reason we send this is because they are retiree. I understand what you're saying. And I don't know what happened before, but I can tell you that if you have anybody can apply, and if the principal recommends a retiree, and there are other individuals there that are not, then they will be able to justify why that person is a better candidate, as opposed to others who aren't. Okay? They will have to do that. And if that is the case, no one's going to say to you, you've got 5 candidates over here, and they are not a retiree. You have got to hire them. You can't hire them right here. That's not the way it goes.
Well, the way it was, if you had a person that scored a 98 and they were the retiree, and you got another person that scored a 96, well, if they're a non-retiree, you couldn't certify to hire the 98 because that person, there was a qualified person who was a non-retiree to fill that job, and you're just not hiring them because you're letting the retiree stay on.
I understand.
And that's exactly the way when we ran into that problem. It was not about who's the best person to fill the job. It was whether or not there was a person qualified to teach that subject.
And you didn't hire them.
And if you didn't hire them, okay, then you could hire a retiree to fill the job, but you had to give deference to those non-retirees if they were qualified for that job.
Right, I understand.
And that's what the question I keep asking is that the way it is now? Or have they changed it to where it's the best person for the job? It doesn't matter whether there's a qualified person that can do it, you can still hire the retiree even if the other person's qualified if you think they're just a little bit better.
And if it's a critical need area, yes. That's right.
I think probably what Mr. Bam is referring to, and Ms. Kessler, I know was there when we first had to deal with this, and you were not in this position. We had somebody in this position, and the box that she was saying she can't check based upon the same thing you're saying is position information. Were there any qualified, non-retired member applicants willing to accept the position? And she would tell us that she cannot sign her name and check no if she really had people who were number 96 instead of number 98. Do you see what I'm saying?
I understand.
And that looks like me, it's the same box.
It's on this document. But if you exercise the right to do otherwise, which we probably would not, then they reserve the right to say you can't hire them. I understand what you're saying. You're saying that if you got somebody that's not a retiree and you hire someone that is, then when you certify that, you're saying, whoever was in the seat said, I can't assure that because I know there was someone else out there who could have taught this that wasn't a retiree. I understand. That is in this document. And it is also stated that when you do this, it should be that there was no other. In the ideal situation, there is no other candidate. This is the candidate. You should not be able to check that there were other candidates available that you didn't hire. Okay?
Therein lies the problem.
I understand.
That's the one, that's for sure. If you had to hire this person, would that be year by year or semester by semester?
Yes,
Because
ma'am, it would be year by year.
so if you had the candidate to be wanting that comes, graduates from Carolina, it's bye-bye, go to seek elsewhere. Or
Well, that's a retiree, you're employed on a letter of agreement, which isn't in the legal world, it's still a contract, but it's not a continuing contract.
Ms. Brown. And this isn't just, unfortunately, a South Carolina problem. I think I shared with Dr. Cooper that this is honestly a national problem. We just got a bunch of data on this that I actually forwarded to her that I'll forward to the other board members, that across the board, every state is facing this. And it's basically because we only have every single one of our teacher certification colleges and programs and everything is down by about 50%. Even in our state, so we have 50% less people going into the field. Even in our own state, I don't know if y'all noticed in the newspaper a few weeks ago, it talked about the top majors and then the lower majors, and some of those very lower majors, the numbers of kids going in it, were actually some of these critical needs areas that you're now identifying. So the problem isn't going to get any better. It's only going to get worse because you've got so many less kids going in it from even 2 years ago. Even these numbers that he shared with us, 4 years from now, are going to look even more
We've
dismal.
never been here for that staffing, full staff, until last year.
Mr. Johns?
One question, Dr. Cooper, on the annual staffing report. I understand that transfers and moves is our number one. The accepted position in another district being very close, number two. Do we actually ask those when those people leave why? I mean, is it money? Is it location? I live here, that kind of stuff?
We do an exit interview. It's mailed.
Okay.
I found that we get more response from the mail survey than requiring someone to come in and talk with you. Now, if they want to do that, that's fine. But yes, we do. Sometimes they answer that and sometimes they don't.
I just want to make sure, I know that we tend to be competitive with our surrounding districts, with our teacher salaries, but I want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on that at all times so that we're
We are, in fact, it's even
maintaining.
embedded in our strategic plan. We are part of that. And it might be a little overzealous to be honest.
Do we do the same thing with administrators? Are we comparing salaries with administrators?
We do the same thing with administrators.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not losing good teachers or good administrators if it's simply a money issue. I mean, I understand living, moving, whatnot, so.
Sure, I understand. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Any other questions? The next item is executive session.
Motion